to move on and dismiss things, albeit firing Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry. But there are a million questions and scenarios that go along with it that nobody thinks about. Start and stop thinking with your heart, and sometimes think with your brain. Let's talk about it. Latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, brought to the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you guys are awesome. Everybody keeps sticking around. We'll get through this together. And if you're new, make sure you're subscribed to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Become an everydayer for yourself. Show is always available. There's always free wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. The Browns heading into Pittsburgh Thursday. And this has been a popular one. The Browns have had a big history of firing head coaches after losses to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So naturally, that just stokes the fire under the seat of Kevin Stefanski even more right now. And certainly Andrew Berry's name is mentioned in there. I will preface this, and I have been on this. I'm not sure what the correct alternative is. But there are many cases where I can say, yes, that is understandable. And maybe you have to move on from these gentlemen. Deshaun Watson certainly being a major one. No question about that. There are certainly instances where I say I can continue to ride with them. I think they're just both quality gentlemen. I think they're class acts. And I don't have to tell you, Browns fans, that you have been through many over the years where it wasn't just about wins and losses. It was about a whole bunch of other stuff. So that being said, the automatic and, I get it, the knee jerk and, the get rid of them, fire them, get them out of here. Okay. Again, I can listen to things and I can be, you want me to be the judge? I will take out my gavel. I will listen to all sides and I will do what I got to do. And listen to all points fairly and equally. You are not going to fire head coach Kevin Stefanski and bring in a former two-time coach of the year. It's just something that's not going to happen. Could said guy develop into that? Certainly. But, I think people are only looking at the negative aspect of these gentlemen's resumes with the Cleveland Browns currently. So again, it's understandable. When you're aggravated, you look for the things that aggravate you, because you want to be aggravated. You're, most likely you can find a coach who's been to the playoffs twice. That's fair. But are they running to this team? We'll get to more on that later. Andrew Berry. It's now his 5th season as general manager of the Cleveland Browns. And there's been highlights. There's certainly been lowlights. I think a lot of his questions and critiques over his drafts are a little unfair because I do believe you're hamstrung when you made that Deshaun Watson trade. Yes, water goes downhill. So one bad move leads to a lack of, good moves in other areas. Sure. It makes sense. It's fair. But I see people, well, Andrew Berry just can't draft in the first round. Well, he hasn't drafted in the first round in quite some time now. So you can't say he can't draft in the first round. Yes, Jed Wills didn't turn out to be that great of a pick. Greg Newsome, would you say he's performing at the level of a first round pick? No, that's fair. That's fair. Jeremiah Usu-Koromo probably is. Grant Delpit, probably not, but certainly performing where he was. I agree with Pete Smith when he brought it up last night. Nobody, I think, gives enough credit to maybe the 2023 draft. Cedric Tillman, looking like he's, on a breakout path. Tawan Jones is probably going to be your left tackle for the next couple of years. Isaiah McGuire, certainly a part of, the rotation. Cameron Mitchell, to be fair, we haven't seen enough because there are 3 quarterbacks in front of him. Mahmoud Diabate, Ronnie Hickman, he gets credit for those. So you want to move on, that's fine. It is. And this is something we went through. And I remember it went down one night on Twitter. Basically, when we all came to the realization of the knowing that the Browns were going to move on from Baker Mayfield. And my point at the time was, it's great if you want to move on. Can you get what you had? Can you get better? And to be fair, and look, I was a Baker guy. I love Baker Mayfield. I did. I still love Baker Mayfield. And at the time, if you were just saying the player Deshaun Watson, at the time, it probably looked as just a football move as probably the correct move. We all know where we are with that. So my thought process here and, what I'm coming and speaking about here is, it's so great to say, we want, change and they got to go. But is it just change because you want them gone? Or can you get something good, something better in to replace either of these two gentlemen? If you saw Josina Anderson's tweet, and if you haven't, you should check it out, because I think she kind of worded it for us Browns fans to know that, yes, in fact, Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat, which probably means Andrew Berry is as well. But I'm not saying they have to stay. But I'm saying, if you're going to move on, do you have the crystal ball? Or do you have somebody with a strong enough resume that you prove it is going to be the better football move? We're going to continue to talk about this. Your latest Locked On Browns rolls on. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Do you think Cedric Tillman, Elijah Moore, either one of these guys are going to go off Thursday night? Well, check their line and just simply wager over or under. Add a couple more players to it. You got a lineup and you got a chance to win some real money. I've enjoyed it. I've talked to you guys for years. I always love the primetime games. It allows me to put a lineup together. You're not chasing other games. You're just watching one game. So you might as well get yourself a little juice, little action in that one game. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today. Again, use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by ZBiotics. ZBiotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD students to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to take ZBiotics before your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you will feel your best the next morning. Look, we get older. We end up going out when we know we shouldn't. We don't get as much sleep as we don't. There are ways around this with the pre-alcohol before your drinks. You notice a difference the next day. You get up a little easier. You get to your morning routine a little faster, and you can confidently plan on getting through your work day or your weekend activities or whatever it is with a little bit more gust than you would normally would. Look, I won't lie. I was a bit on the fence about the pre-alcohol initially, but then while hanging out with some friends over a couple of drinks, I gave it a shot. And believe me, it's the real deal. You consume it, you sit down, make sure you hydrate, and guess what? The next morning, you wake up less fog, more clear, more ready to grow. Step 1, drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly, the most important step. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On NFL at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money guarantee, so if you are unsatisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. I'm Jeff Lloyd. Your latest Locked On Browns rolls on. We appreciate you all for making the show your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you guys are awesome. We appreciate you all so much. To the new folks, become an everyday or subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, you look at this, and again, if you're all in on making change, and look, if that's your stance, I entitle you to it. But say the worst happens here down the stretch, and this team does in fact end up 2-15, which I do believe 2-15 will probably get it done. 2-15 will get you most likely the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL draft. So yes, that's an attraction to come here. But you're looking at a 2-15 team. You are looking at a team that has major offensive line questions. You are looking at a team that needs some work, certainly, on the defensive line. You are looking at a running back room that could need a lot of work if Nick Chubb doesn't come back, or a good deal of work if Nick Chubb does come back. Oh, wait. Who's your quarterback? Who is your quarterback? The free agent class, there ain't much there, kids. Certainly not. Never is. Free agency is not the way to answer your quarterback position. I will gladly bring back Jameis in some capacity, ideally to be the number 2. But who knows? You know, you have everybody just thinks, that Mike Vrabel is a shoo-in. And I believe there's a bunch of you that probably think that Mike Vrabel is already the next head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Okay, I guess. But Mike Vrabel is going to be a guy with some options. So how would it look if you fired Kevin Stefanski and Mike Vrabel ended up taking a head coaching job with another team? That wouldn't look good. Mike Vrabel's here. First-hand experience. He's seen everything that's gone on this year. So if Mike Vrabel were to have no interest in taking this head coaching job and looking to go somewhere else, that's going to speak volumes to any other prospective head coach candidate. Same thing with general manager. There is a certain way this roster has been constructed, certainly through its finances. And you need those type of analytic minds to continue this trend for you, to continue to have rollover cap, so you have money, so you can spend in free agency each and every year. And the Browns should get a break cap-wise in the next couple of years. You are looking at a very, very large amount of draft choices for the Cleveland Browns in the 2025 draft. That should certainly help, which is also some of the parts with their roster, which we'll talk about in a little bit here. So who's coming? Who's running? Hot names, two of the hottest names right now. Johnson, offense coordinator, and Aaron Glenn, defense coordinator for the Detroit Lions. So these guys could possibly go from playing in the NFC Championship last year. I got to think the Detroit Lions are Super Bowl favorites this year, to the Super Bowl. And you're going to take that first head coaching job in the NFL. And it's going to be the 2-15 Cleveland Browns. Don't have a quarterback. Have a lot of holes on the roster. Where's the attraction of taking this job? You have an owner who is willing to spend, which is certainly on the attractive side. But you also have an owner who is dead set on winning, which gives a short leash and certainly has caused him to meddle at times. You don't want the owner to meddle. Win. Billionaires who aren't getting the result are going to do billionaire things and stick their nose in because they're billionaires and they think they know better. So again, there's going to be a lot of vacancies. Where is the main attraction? That where all these guys are going to say, I'm not telling you yay or nay until I get my interview with the Cleveland Browns. There's some things going for this job. That's fair. But there are a lot of things that are certainly to be determined. And a lot of it also is you get in, you're probably not going to win right away. So even some of the things that you love about this team right now may not be the things that are ultimately going to get you to where you'd want to be. So again, the attraction level. There has to be an attraction level to lure in a quality coach. Some of those questions could be asked about the roster as well. And we're going to talk about that next. The latest Locked On Browns continues. Look, we've all grown over the years. I mean, can you imagine the person you are today telling your 17-year-old self, look at that magazine collection. Those are the magazines I read. Look at the literature I now read. Show them your top 10, news on your phone where you get it. We all grow. We all change. And how you use your time is extremely important because it's our most precious commodity. So don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How could you spend it wisely? And how could you spend it more wisely and actually improve yourself? History, economics, the great works of literature, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Probably you didn't. You were probably chosen and given a schedule by an academic advisor. Or even if you did, maybe it's time for a refresher because you may not agree with some of the things as a 19, 20-year-old kid you certainly did. Time and technology have changed a lot of things, but they have not changed basic fundamental truths about the world and our place in it. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire, and a brand new documentary-style course on Marxism, socialism, and communism. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in whenever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just kind of sit back and absorb and enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockdown and enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockdown and register. Hillsdale.edu/lockdown. The latest Locked On Browns continues. I'm your host, Jeff Lloyd. We appreciate everybody who makes the show the first listen every single day. Everyday crowd. If you're not a part by now, make a new plan. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. Now, you get into this, the city, the team, all of us, where is the attraction level? The other thing is what's going to draw head coaches. Where's the roster at? Well, I've told you, you have no answers at the quarterback position. Could be a really good chance you end up with the first overall pick. Is any one of these prospective head coaches Deion Sanders? Is Deion Sanders and his son coming to Cleveland to play with the Browns? I'm not saying never. And the rumors look like it's Vegas. Maybe Dallas can find a way. But it's Shedeur Sanders. If you're not his dad, are you one of these prospective head coaches and says, I'm putting my money, I'm putting my family's money, I'm putting my future on Shedeur Sanders? You doing it for Cam Ward? You doing it for Jalen Milroe? Not so sure, but those decisions would be critical to what you're doing as a head coach of the Cleveland Browns. Jameis being around is great, but it's certainly not, I don't even know if it's a presence, let alone a future. Nick is a free agent and still working his way back. Offensive line, you're going to have to bring in competitive depth. I'm not just saying depth, competitive depth. You're going to need to bring in somebody that could possibly outplay a Jack Conklin. No disrespect to Jack Conklin. He's playing really well. Could outplay a DeJuan Jones. Guard, you make this change. You throw everybody out. Could change whether or not, and we don't know where he's at, Joe Bitonio, but it could certainly change whether or not Joe Bitonio says, I got one more in me. Because if it's a rebuild, what's Joel playing for? What's he playing for? Joel Bitonio's got plenty of money. One more year is probably not going to break his financial future or his family's financial future. But there's your needs on your offensive line. Could need one, if not two, starting defensive tackles. You need a starting defensive end. No disrespect, Isaiah McGuire and Alex Wright and Okoronkwo. They're rotational ends, and that's all they are at this point. Linebacker room, I'd say you're okay. Don't know where you're at with Newsome and Emerson. Going to need a free safety, most likely. So what's the attraction level with the roster? Everybody is always so quick to make change. And again, I get it. The Deshaun Watson trade and the failure that it was is probably, and undoubtedly, a fireable offense. But what you did see in 2023 is that no, Deshaun Watson didn't matter. They were able to make it work with the guys that they had here. So do you trust these guys to go out and find a quarterback? I trust them to fill in the rest of the holes. The quarterback is the ultimate one. And, Baker wasn't their guy. And they decided that Baker was not their guy. They decided that Deshaun Watson was going to be their guy. And it blew up in their faces. No question about it. 3 first-round picks, $230 million guaranteed. Inexcusable trade. Did not work in any way whatsoever. But, and I think a lot of you are looking at the way this team is this year. And at this point, it has nothing to do with Deshaun. And, certainly we're bringing up questions of effort and heart, questions that nobody ever wants to discuss. Always difficult discussions to have. And, and it's fair, though. I certainly saw some questionable effort on Sunday in New Orleans. So I agree with all of you there. Some of it, look, if you know your season's over, it's a tough spot to be in. It really is. Not everything's, like the movies, like Rudy, and, just have these guys that come in and plug it out every day and 110%. It just doesn't work that way. It doesn't. But there's a lot of change that goes along with it. It's not just bringing a new head coach and a general manager. It's not. There's a million other things. And, it's not just sub one in, sub one out. So when you're thinking about these and you make these wild and bold statements, those are some things you need to think about when you are making those bold statements. And again, if they go, it was earned. If they stay, I'm okay with it. Or if it's one or the other, I don't know. Are they a package deal? Who knows? Just all things to think about. We will get back to Browns Steelers tomorrow. I'm going to get to sit with Locked On Steelers host Chris Carter. God, he's going to kill me. He's going to love every moment of that. It is what it is. I'll stand up there and I'll talk my talk just because that's who I am. We're getting closer to game day anyway, so the cockiness will kick in. I appreciate everybody, again, as always, for making Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. The everyday crowd is a bunch of filthy animals, but they're my filthy animals. Become a filthy animal for yourself. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. The show is always available. It is always free wherever you get your podcasts. After this, make sure you check out Tyler Rowan. Then you check out Tony Wiggins. These guys crush it on the Locked On NFL podcast as well as their own team podcast, so check all that out. This has been your daily delivery of all things dog pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go Browns.